Hi, welcome to Cybersecurity Unlocked. I'm your host, Avian Jones. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend, Christian Karam. He's the Global Head of Cyber Threat Intelligence for UBS and also the APAC CISO.
Thanks
hey mate, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
How's lockdown treated you?
It's been great.
Been great.
Yeah, just staying at home. I think work from home is normal pretty much for us. We spend a lot of time at home anyway, but get to see the family, spend time with the family has been a good opportunity.
Yeah, great. Did you? A lot of people were taking the time to, redo certifications or learn new skills. Did you learn anything or
cooking?
Read new books? Cooking.
Cooking had to. Well, obviously, I think for everyone, staying at home more, spending time with family, you're readjusting, your boundaries between work and life. And cooking has been great. It's been a good opportunity to reskill at that angle, but. Yeah, inevitably, we're reading more books. There's other stuff that we haven't had the time to catch up on. An hour commuting per day kind of is given back to you, and you can spend more time reskilling, right? Especially that we're gonna need a lot of new skills after this big pandemic globally, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I want to talk to you about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So, what was let's sort of rewind. How did you sort of first get started in this industry?
I probably started cybersecurity in 2002, a very early age. More of an interest in hacking and cracking. A lot of these interesting tutorials online and kid stuff. So it's always been of an interesting activity, like in computers. I think I had a rule when I was a kid is that don't use the PC for games. Use it for everything else, right? So gaming time was on a PlayStation or any console, and then PC was to do other complex stuff, so to figure out like what you want to do with it. And it kind of grew over the years. Spent more time kind of like building skills around that. And then my first job was probably 16, being a pen tester for some of the local banks back in my home country. It was interesting. And then you realize I can make money out of that. Right? I can be a freelancer. I can get. At the time, I used to pay. It's ridiculous how time changes. Pen testing used to charge $250 an hour,
really?
And now probably is around $20 an hour, $15 an hour at maximum. Right? It's gotten commoditized over the years that the industry changed, and then new roles and new skill sets now are being charged at $250 an hour. So it's a very evolving, fast field.
Yeah. So what year was that then when you were pen testing?
Probably started around 2007, 2006.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
started spending more time doing that professionally, right?
Yeah.
Spending more time on this, and interacting with clients, flying to locations. That was a good opportunity, and that helped me move into like consulting jobs with some private clients, etc. there. And then I realized there's a lot more to do than just doing pen testing or security consulting, but there's a larger organization that needs to operate and make money.
Yeah.
And your role is to kind of enable them into doing that.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty interesting thing to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how did the opportunity with Interpol come about?
So it's a bit of like one of these random things in life. As I was doing a bit of a consulting work, I either had to continue my studies and go to the US, and at the same time I had applied for an internship at Interpol. And it was only a 6-month internship, and I got a call, and Interpol at the time was building they had a new mandate in 2012 on building a cybersecurity headquarters, right? The IGCI, the Interpol Global Complex for Innovation, based out of Singapore here today. So as things developed, I took the internship, went to France, to Lyon, to the headquarters before we moved to Singapore because it wasn't built yet.
Yeah.
And we were a team of 4.
Wow.
Only 4 people with a mandate to build this whole global cyber thing. And the internship was really short. I got offered a contract after it, became a consultant and an officer at Interpol. And this 4 people team became a huge large initiative of fighting cybercrime globally with the dedicated centers in Lyon and in Singapore. And it was just a massive catalyst for my career. It's one of the great things I learned there. I think I'm very, very grateful for that, is at a very young age being thrown in big meetings to meet very important people in the public sector, government officials. You learn how to stop speaking technical and speak straight to the point of what makes sense, and kind of like de-jargonize the topic. Something that I practice a lot with my colleagues and my staff today is really kind of spend more time on getting the right message out, and then get it exactly in the way that your stakeholders are not technical, not tech savvy, would get it, and makes a massive difference with managing people up or managing people down as well. Yeah.
That's a really interesting point that you make there about the ability to translate context from technical for a non sort of technical audience, because that is quite often a blocker and stops people from making that next step into leadership roles, where they do the importance of managing up and presenting to kind of C-level stakeholders, where it's absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. This plays a big it's actually a massive big element when it comes to how you're being perceived by the management, right? The ability to understand something and simplify it and adapt it to the person on the other side that doesn't have the same expertise as you do, but then kind of drive them in a direction where they are able to make a decision out of that. Is very difficult and should not be taken for granted. I didn't realize that because in the beginning I had to tailor my language to police officers, right? And some of them are technical, some of them are not technical, right? They have a very different background, and you can't talk IP addresses and hacking and tools in front of them. So you have to really explain like what is the impact, where is the risk, where is the threat. That is stuff that they're more accustomed to, and then you kind of guide them to, well, that's the right decision to take. Let's have a debate on that. Or this is very similar to that kind of threat that you're used to be dealing with in the real world, in the physical world. It kind of bridges the gap between individuals speaking together and discussing and deciding.
And again, kind of managing the language that you use in a kind of very structured hierarchy and the level of seniority they might be speaking to. The importance of like saving face and not embarrassing anybody in certain meetings. It's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
Exactly. I think I had one meeting. I remember I had a meeting with a Minister of Defense that attended once a meeting at Interpol, and there was this fantastic leader at Interpol. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, and I gave a presentation that was very technical, right? The guy still loved it, right? He was a technical guy, but I got feedback from this from the Interpol lead. And it was probably one of the best advice I've ever got in my life. Next time he invited me again and again and again. He wasn't really afraid of having me jump onto the wagon multiple times and then present to it, because he kind of realized that I'm able to adapt now, given the advice and the guidance. That's also very important, to find the right people in the organizations. Someone that can really not block you, but rather kind of give you a course adjustment. So you can either expand your skills or realize these are the important things that we need to focus on.
Sure. Okay. So act as a sponsor and can help you sort of influence.
Mentors, sponsors. In any career, I think it's always a blessing when you have the right person guiding you from the top. So it's been great.
Yeah. Awesome. And then your career kind of took a turn into the private sector, if you like. Into financial services. What was it that attracted you to financial services?
I think my ex-colleagues and Interpol call it I defected.
Right. Oh, really?
It's a defection, right? Look, public sector is a great place to work, and it was one of the best memories I've had. Also, the public good is very important, right? Saving people's lives, keeping the world secure. It's a very, very honorable, very fantastic mission. The decision for me to move to private sector was really driven by the need to do something more, right? I wanted to measure, I wanted to see what can I do in a different sector. One of the things that I really liked before Interpol, after Interpol, I will continue to like for many years, is I like insights, right? I like to discover insights. At Interpol, you could see the globe, you can see macro trends, macro insights. But I really wanted to specialize in one field and have a look at really inside the field, how are things connected. I had some theories in mind, and it went in the right direction. I think in the financial sector kind of gave me that ability of deep diving into what is the impact of cybersecurity and then the financial world, right? Which we all know, from a high level perspective is important.
Yeah.
We all think about, well, yeah, there's money involved, so there must be a lot of risks tied to it. But really what lies, underneath, those big titles.
Yeah.
And the complexity of it is very interesting, but also extremely exciting. And there's a lot to be still discovered and built on in that industry. So the decision was easy. It was really about making sure that, I have to move back into the financial sector or the private sector in general as well, where there would be some element of finance involved in it.
Yeah. So I hope you don't mind me asking you this, but I remember when we had you interviewing with UBS, and there was also a consulting firm, and the feedback that I got from both to this day is still probably the best feedback that I've had. What did you do in those interviews? Like, how did you prep? How did you, sort of approach the questions? What was your process?
I think the key element was I was really comfortable doing interviews. Right? I was going and meeting a lot of companies. I was speaking to them. I got used to being out there. In my role, in my job, I have to interact with a lot of stakeholders. I have to speak to a lot of companies. So there isn't this element of being comfortable speaking about what I do in my job. I knew what I was really good at and the things that I'm not really good at. And just, putting that out there kind of gave them the confidence that, this person is able to achieve was what he's actually trying to sell us. The other great factor was the roles that were available, that were offered at the time, and the skill set matched at the peak of a job hype, right? I mean, the roles themselves were really sought of in the market, and people really wanted to hire in that skill set. And I was just there at the right time, at the right moment, and the right place, right? So it kind of all aligned very well. But definitely, I've had some of the best conversations during those interviews with some of these leaders in these companies, and unfortunately, with some of them, we couldn't go any further. But UBS has been a great company to work for, and highly committed to work and develop things with them, and it's been growing and growing ever since.
Well, what a fantastic journey it's been for you. I mean, your career trajectory has been fantastic. What do you think are the key skills, in your opinion, that make a good cyber threat intelligence analyst?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and this is my personal view. It might be completely different in the industry, right? So a lot of people that came to the CTI skill set or CTI role, when I go and I look a bit at the profile of the candidate, there's a significant amount of them that are addressing it purely from a strategic intelligence perspective, right? So geopolitics, financial intelligence, etc. I think that's definitely important, but it needs to come at a later stage when you've really gotten the basics right. And CTI is really, you need to find a set of candidates that are technical at the base, that understand what the threat is, right? The core mission of CTI is what is the threat outside that we're worried about? So we can translate that to a potential impact and mitigate this within the firm, or allow the senior management to take a better informed decision on that threat. Then you can layer on, additionally, strategic intelligence, geopolitics, to enrich that context more efficiently. The mistake that I see a lot is that we're throwing people at these roles, and we're building, a bit of a miscommunication in those CTI teams, where the strategic intelligence analyst cannot speak technical, and a technical person cannot speak strategic, and then you end up with a rift inside that team. And you want to kind of move everyone to kind of specialize in their own areas, but also able to work homogeneously, kind of deliver this.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So somebody who has kind of earned their stripes at the granular level, been sort of rolled up their sleeves at the technical side, and then they have a much better understanding of what a potential root cause might be.
Kind of build a platoon of skill sets, right? Make sure you have the appropriate people at the technical level, at the strategic level, tactical level. Find people from different backgrounds. There is no one recipe. Everyone can be a CTI analyst, coming in from a different background, being if you have a psychology degree, or you have an international relations degree, or even a security incident responder, or even a red teamer, right? everyone can move in that area. It's about
Yeah.
passion and interest and threats,
Yeah.
and also building that skill set of understanding what's the impact, who
Yeah.
is it going to impact, and what can I do with it, right?
Yeah.
And how do I relay the message to the senior management?
Yeah.
A lot of things I say to my colleagues in the team is that make sure to remember that you're an ambassador from what you're seeing, and explain that to the senior management. Right? You're supposed to make things very simple, very elegant, very easy to understand. This is what ambassadors have to do. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to create more conflict.
No.
You want to basically bridge gaps, when allow opportunity for everyone to be able to understand what the problem is. And we measure our efficiency by looking at how much change we've delivered, how many decisions we've been able to influence,
Yeah.
so people take the right decision and ultimately mitigate that risk for the firm.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, if you're just sending news, we're just another news agency,
Yeah.
in the big pool of other news agencies, and we're not really deriving something of relevance, context, value for the firm with mitigation impact. Yeah.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody that is, been working in the industry, maybe comes from a more kind of traditional security compliance or governance background, that wants to cross skill into cyber threat intelligence, something a little bit more interesting? What certifications do you think better prepares them for that
Yeah.
role, or keeping up to date with the latest threat actors?
I think there's a lot of certifications outside that can ease or prepare you into going in that direction. I don't really endorse any certifications myself.
Okay.
But there's definitely a lot of these companies and well-rounded courses that are available, and then highly endorsed by the industry. The thing that I noticed the most is that you need to be passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
You need to wake up in the morning and read 3, 4, 5 blogs, right? And understand, what's happening. Why is this threat actor doing X and Y and Z? One thing that is really important, if you want to move from purely a security analyst role to more of a CTI role in operations, when you look at it, the difference really is about trying to identify the motives and the intent, right? What is the attacker trying to do? That's the story that you have to stick around, right? A lot of the security activities, you just need to remediate and stop the attack. But CTI comes in to kind of go beyond that and say, why are they trying to attack us?
Right.
Why is this team being targeted? Is it a business activity? Is it something that we've published online? Is there a motive? Is there a certain mission because when you think about cyber threat today, there's an element of motivation. Right?
Yeah.
There's a motivation. When you talk about an advanced persistent threat, there's an element of motivation. The person on the other side is trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
And they've defined their goals.
Right.
And that's what CTI has to uncover, right? We're trying to uncover what the goals of the adversary is, build that, and explain to the business. And here where it really becomes a skill set. If you go to a senior manager or the business or anyone that needs to take a decision from a leadership perspective, and you say, we've seen a threat and we've blocked it, they're going to go, great, good job. But then when you tell them we've seen an attempt, we've seen a threat, and we've seen several attempts, and they're interested in this business unit, that business deal, this portfolio, whatever that is,
Yeah.
they're going to say, well, hold on a second. What can we do more
Yeah.
to stop them from impacting that business? And then you raise awareness.
Yeah.
People understand that they're being targeted. They understand that they have something valuable that they need
Yeah.
to protect. And this is really our role, to expand that from just being a technology, to defend the technology, to defend the business. Right? That's our role, to defend the business ultimately there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Going on to your other hat, if you like, what do you think are the key fundamentals that make a good chief information security officer?
I think I'm still trying to learn that and grow that on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
The CISO role has evolved so much in the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
One thing I noticed for sure, right? The way I operate as a CISO is very different than a lot of colleagues that I've met. I'm not saying I'm better or they're better, right? Or I think that it's clearer now that the modern age CISO has to be more than just an information security manager. Right?
Yeah.
So in the past, you would do the whole risk management, governance, data protection pieces. In today's world, you need to know as well a lot about operations. Right?
Yeah.
the CISO now kind of owns operations, has to have oversight on operations, is tasked with taking decisions, right, at critical times. That element, especially the portfolio of threat, and I see a lot of colleagues and good friends of mine that are going back and throwing themselves into new challenges. A really, really good friend, he's been doing this since the 90s, probably, one of the seasoned experts in the industry. He threw himself, and I was extremely surprised, he threw himself at a new challenge to go spend time on building threat management capabilities for entities in the financial sector. And he learned this from scratch, right? And he came out of this experience extremely well adapted as a, revamped, a great facelift for a new CISO, where he's got this tons of knowledge and relationships, and now he's got really the up-to-date information on threat management, and he's closer to the topic, better than ever. And it's a great thing to do. I think, as CISOs, we shouldn't just stop learning, right? 5 years down the line, I'm thinking, what's the next thing? And I see cyber risk quantification as the next thing in the next 5 years. So I have to invest my time and effort to add on top of threat management, operations, governance, all that, quantification, right? Risk models. That's something that we're going to need, and we have to prepare for it.
Well, it's evolving so quickly, isn't it? As well, if you can't really afford to stop learning, otherwise you're just going to become obsolete very quickly.
And that's what I like about the job, right? It's that you don't have a skill set that just goes flat over the years, right? There's always going to be a new trend, a new challenge, and on one side you're trying to always catch up with the attackers' intent, motives, techniques, tools, all of that, behaviors. On the other, you're looking at how much cybersecurity is getting ingrained into our day-to-day processes. And how much demand there is on it. And then they're opening up new opportunities to kind of like expand that field within the corporate world and the private sector.
And how do you keep up to date with the latest like threat actors and trends? And you mentioned your friend that does that really well. What's your secret?
Look, there's tons of sources of information outside. There's a lot of companies really working hard on indexing, threats and writing about them and explaining them. I think one of the biggest advantages as well, you don't want people to sit behind the keyboard and interact with the machine. You go out there, talk to banks, talk to peers. I think we have this idea that we can't share information with other banks, and there's a bit of competition. That's absolutely not true in cybersecurity, right? There is no competition, right? Our goal is to keep the sector safe. A client of mine could be a client of two banks, right? My intent is to make sure that everyone is secure. So you see this a lot. There's always a talk about information sharing. There's a lot of successful information sharing engagements happening globally that really bring people together. You see this in a lot of events that we have in cybersecurity in the industry. We're close friends across multiple companies. We share information. We trust each other. If a bank is gonna get hit on Monday, we're very probably gonna get hit on Tuesday. So us working together kind of helps us share information effectively, mitigate the threat, also get this complete picture to law enforcement, because ultimately we want to try to put people behind bars. We want to stop those evil fingers behind the keyboard from operating again and again, because attackers are equally resilient, right? They're learning from their mistakes, they're evolving, and we just have to match them from the other side.
That's a really interesting point that you make, actually, about that there isn't any elements of competition within cybersecurity. I think that's one of the very healthy things about the industry. When you're talking about other industries such as selling cloud solutions or anything around innovation, it's all about hoarding sort of information. So progress is very difficult to kind of achieve, I guess.
It's very true. I think maybe the healthy competition is always on recruitment, right? Because it's like first come, first serve. There's a very, very finite number of experts on the market. But that's also a good thing, right? It's a good thing for the firm to be able to always have an eye on recruitment, always looking at the new talent. But really, operationally and day-to-day activities, it's been fantastic to be working with some of the peers in the industry across the world. It's fascinating how Asia is connected to the US and Europe, and everyone's working in one direction, one wavelength, and we've had some very successful stories. Right?
Yeah, it's cool, awesome. Another question I was really keen to ask you as well, actually, because I remember I asked you maybe about 3 years ago, what's going to be the next big thing, or what do you? And I remember you saying specifically purple teaming. that's going to be the next big thing. And then
Yeah.
lo and behold, about a year later, I started seeing
Yeah.
purple team roles like appearing here, there, and
Yeah.
everywhere. So let me ask you that again. What's going to be the next big thing in your opinion?
So
what does the future look like?
It's interesting. Like, I mean, purple teaming at the time, even though it's a very debated term in the industry, you could see red teaming being like the next frontier, and still like blue was there. So eventually there's going to be a bit of a mix in colors and end up in purple. But insider threat for the industry is going to be big.
Yeah,
I strongly believe this is going to be a big one. I think a very, very big area is going to be third party, right? As more companies are going to the cloud and they're doing more outsourcing engagements, it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective, and it's going to introduce complexities, right? It's going to simplify things, but also introduce some complexities on the security side.
Yeah.
And third party is going to be a big, big one, right? We were seeing third party incidents anyway across, the 2020 this year. If you can read the news, there's a bit of an increase in third party incidents there, both on the hardware supply chain or on the software supply chain side. So it's very important to have people starting to specialize in those areas. It would be a very key component there. The other thing, like I said, is risk quantification.
Yeah.
I think risk quantification is going to be important to fill in the gaps. You want to know what's the impact that's going to be on the market. Today, we look a lot at the impact from downtime or data theft or fraud activities, but really there's a far bigger impact to the global markets that has to be discovered and factored and measured, right?
Yeah.
And that will help risk management areas, will help risk managers and modeling experts, kind of factor cyber into their existing financial risk modeling, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really, really important thing to have. In fact, you probably see it a little bit with the insurances, right? Insurers are already looking at that area. It's very important for them to look at the impact of cyber to the premiums, the packages, the activities, all of that. It's going to be a far more granular integration of cyber into the day-to-day risk management areas.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, that's really really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And what have you got planned for? When do you go back to work?
Well, I went back to work a couple of weeks ago. I had one day in the office. It was definitely good to be back.
Yeah.
It was an empty office, but slowly we're going to start bringing people back in. And I think work from home is a very interesting concept that will definitely allow people to be more flexible, especially in this field. Cybersecurity is about making sure that the individual is comfortable where they are to be able to operate with full capacity in dealing with some of these cases. You want to get them the most comfortable environment that they can, and if it's in the office, they're comfortable with that, so be it. If it's at home, that also is available, especially that people are working around the clock.
Exactly. Do you think people have been more sort of productive in this time in your field?
I think some people have been extremely productive. I think some people found it to be a bit of a challenge, especially if they have families. But it kind of allowed them to find a system, build a bit of a discipline to it, find a system, and adapt. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of learning coming out of this experience. It's going to be very positive for the rest of us. Yeah.
How have our sort of adversaries, used COVID as a potential, vulnerability or? Well,
they're one thing for sure. They're very fast at adapting, right? This is very important to really portray correctly for people and the general public. Is that hackers? I don't like the word term hackers. But more like criminals, cyber criminals that are operating in that space. They will leverage these big events to try to build on the appropriate vulnerabilities or fears of people, right?
Yeah.
And that's been something they've been doing for a very long time. You want to play on the fears because it gives you the highest chance of potentially, successfully impacting a victim.
Yeah.
It's not anymore just one guy sitting in a hood in a dark room and clicking on their keyboard and green screens and all that stuff. It's really more about an organized approach to the psychology of the victim and how can you actually lure them into clicking or falling for a trap. So you see COVID-19 phishing themes impersonating the World Health Organization. You'll find them later on doing more work from home phishing themes, where they're trying to convince you that this is an email from IT and you can enable new features, remote access. Then you see them now doing more return to work phishing themes. So they're going to adapt to this as it evolves, right?
Yeah.
But we've seen this, if there are big, events in the world, certain unfortunate events or big events, they're going to always kind of like leech on these incidents and build a campaign around it. And that's because it gives them a high chance of succeeding. Right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're in the profit and gain business, illegal profit and gain business.
Yeah.
And this is the mechanism to allow them to do that with the lowest risk that they can occur.
That is the thing, isn't it? Because I was talking to Madan about this, and he said that one of the broader sort of problems of sort of cyber criminals is that the risk factor for them is very, very low. And if they miss an attempt, then they can just go again, and there's no repercussions. Whereas, in the old days, robbing a bank, you're in chains within minutes, and it's all over for you. And
exactly right. I mean, this is why, like at the back of their mind, they just keep doing this.
Yeah.
Right? It just they feel safe behind a PC. They've seen that the world has changed. They're able to adapt to it. They're extremely innovative.
Yeah.
Right? They're there to break technology and then use it in different ways that probably we've never thought of. And it takes us time to go and discover these trends and then to build countermeasures for them.
Yeah.
They're there to kind of like push us to the next level, and then we're there to just make sure that we can always be, hopefully be, a few steps ahead of them and try to anticipate where their interest might be and kind of, try to be more preventive than just reactive these days.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, I could talk to you for hours on end, but I know that you've got a job to get back to. So I just want to say, thanks so much for taking the time to come in and speak with me today. And hopefully maybe we can do it again sometime.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
All right, cool.
Great.
Thank you.
Cheers.